Hello there, I'm Alan Jones, Springboard Safety Services. Sometimes I'm known as Luke Menzies warm-up act, but more of that later on solicitors. I'm going to be covering a bit more of it, bring a dampener on it really. I'm going to just go through some statistics here. So, just to bring the mood down a little bit. So if we look at the key statistics for 23-24, within industry and businesses within the UK, fatal injuries amount to 238, whereas non-fatal employees' injuries 61,000, nearly 67,000, 62,000 almost. Working days lost 33.7 million due to work-related illness and injury. And the fatal ones mainly made up from fall from height and struck sometimes by a moving vehicle or moving object. If you look at the actual statistics, and this is a guide really, we talked about the two being falls from height and struck by an object, but they are quite relatively low, but obviously the consequences can be extreme. So yeah, you're looking at 7% falls from height, and you're looking at the machinery one. Was it struck by an object, sorry, at sort of 20%. So they're quite high, but in the scheme of things, they don't make up all the accidents, but they are the fatal ones. So as we know in the UK, just to cover this, and I do speak to this to many of my clients really, when I'm doing training or something, we just look at the types of law in the UK, and we always go through this. So we have both types, criminal, civil. One is offences against the state, and the other is disputes between private individuals. Purpose of the action is to preserve order in the community, that's your criminal side, and then the other it's to remedy a wrong which has been suffered. So the difference is that on the criminal side, the prosecutor must prove his case beyond reasonable doubt, and obviously on the other side, it's a balance of probabilities. The one carries heavy sanctions, imprisonment, fine, and the other one is usually damages and compensation. However, there is a risk that if you're found with criminally neglect, that you will go over to that side and be prosecuted. So let's have a look a little bit at the headline performance. So if you look at the period 21-22, there was 290 prosecutions, which is a 96% conviction rate. So we're getting into the criminal side here. 22-23, it was 216 at 94%. And in 23-24, 248, 92%. So you might say, well, actually, it's sort of, in those last few years, it's improving. But it's because the HSE and the courts can't process it because it's such a backlog. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're better at it. It just means there's an actual backlog. So, if you look at something else that's changed in the marketplace, or in this situation, sorry, in the marketplace, the increase in fines has gone up. So the average fine has now gone from, if you looked earlier on at just 50,000, it's now up at 150,000. So that's gone up in those periods. And that comes from 2016, where harsher penalties were brought in. So it goes to show how much that can change. Oh, we hit the wrong one. We had this before. Can you get me back in? Ah, there we go. Good. So Trump has tariffs, so do the HSE. So if you have a look at that, depending on your turnover. So if you're looking at a 50 million turnover, your fine's going to start at 4 million and can go up to 10 million. If you're looking at a 10 to 50 million turnover, you're looking at 4 million. And 2 to 10, 1.6 million. They're all significant. Micro businesses, less than 2 million, £450,000. So you can have a £450,000 fine. A packaging company recently fined, that was for entanglement in machine, 32,000. A food company recently, 858,000 fine. And a worker that suffered burns in a distillery, just over £500,000. A fall from height recently, which was 3 meters, we talked about fall from height at the beginning, that came to a 1.5 million fine, and that's from a 3 meter, but it was a fatality. Okay. just skip one there, so I missed a slide here, but never mind. So if we look at that, 5,200 improvement notices issued, 1,800 prohibition notices. So that prohibited work activity due to posing a risk of death. So that's where they actually come in and say, you can't run this machine. That is happening in the thing. These are the kind of things that may put you in that situation of being prosecuted. And it can be anything from the left, so there's a hole in a cabinet there. So HSE might pick that up, or your guys should be on top of that. There's an example where if something fell through that hole and made that cabinet live, that would be a fatality. So that's a very high risk, and when we risk assess it. Obviously, contact with machinery, there's the risk there. Things missing, like a switch that's not been repaired. An earthing strap that's not been tightly secured for whatever reason. Somebody wanted to get the job done quickly. And then no guarding on the bottom right one, so where there's access to moving machinery. So these are current ones that we come across when we do our assessments. So it's so if you look to how much it really costs to do health and safety, so a small to medium organisation complying with health and safety can expect to pay between £6,000 to £40,000 to get it right. I just working with one client that spent £250,000 to date in 2 years. So, and as we've sort of signed up to the PABIOC objectives, understanding and integrating human factors into health and safety, well, what we mean by that is making sure that we've risk assessed our machinery, we've risk assessed our workplace, we have a duty of care to our workers, and they have a duty to follow the rules that we set. So quite important. So, one of the things that we have in place, we do have this. This is your audit, annual audit. Many of you have taken up this. If you're a converter, you get it free for the first time. The following year, you pay for it, but you get a free audit. And why wouldn't you do it anyway? It's a free audit. Whether you think, yeah, we've got it all good, why wouldn't you do it to get that certificate to prove you're good to your employees? And if you're not good, you'll be told you're good, where the issues are and the gaps, and then we can sort that from there. So I think that's quite important that we follow that. So come and see me or Peter at the bar, and we can talk through it. If you want to book an audit, you can do so via us or through the website or through email. So one of the interesting things I thought earlier, when we looked at Andy Torbett and he did his presentation, I thought to myself, God, he's a real health and safety liability, isn't he? And it brought me to think about a story I heard some while ago when somebody was doing their first parachute jump, because he talked a lot about that. And as they bailed out of the plane, obviously hadn't taken too much notice, and they plummeted into earth, they pull the chute, but it doesn't open. So he panics and then pulls the second chute, the reserve chute, and that doesn't open either. So he's just looking down to the ground as he's falling at a rapid speed. And as he's looking down, he sees a chap coming up. This is all about risk assessment. And the chap's coming up. And then when they get level, he shouts across, do you know anything about parachutes? And he said, no, do you know anything about gas ovens? So there we go. So health and safety risk is important. Okay, that's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.